Hello and welcome to Game Soup with Chloe and Kayla. This is the only podcast on the internet brave enough to talk about RPGs.
All have been cancelled before us, but
No, it's just everyone's too afraid. We're the first podcast to talk about game design when you think about it.
True. We're the first podcast about games in general, I think.
Yeah. How have you been? We had a impromptu week off because we missed our recording window.
I started a new job. Give me a break.
Oh no, that was more me. That was the explanation to the audience.
And I'm telling the audience to give me a break.
The audience, I don't think we have a hostile enough audience. We need to tell them to not pester us about a missing week.
No, nobody said anything. But, you know.
Yeah, you have anxiety.
I'm allowed to be a brat, okay?
But did you have a good week in a impromptu? I guess it's the first week of a new job is inherently a bit of a head fuck always, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been all over the fucking country for training, and then it's up and down. They don't really seem to know what they're doing with me. So, yeah. Let's not go into it.
Yeah,
maybe once I've left the job, I'll tell the story. But for now, it's wonderful wherever it is I'm working at. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I was just speaking where you said about going all over the country. Did I mention on the last episode that I was returning to stand-up?
You've mentioned it a few times, I think, yeah.
I think so, yeah. At least we've talked about it. I've done first gigs and stuff since. Anyway, because it's there's only so many gigs in London. And I was thinking about what if I could, as someone who occasionally goes around the country for conventions.
Could you book in a gig while you're away?
Yeah, I was like, I could double punch that. And he was like, are you sure you'd have the energy to do a gig after a convention? I was like, I was thinking more on the setup day. And he was like, okay, but you find the setup day is really stressful too.
Yeah, you get more tired on the setup day than any other day, I think.
But then I pointed out that because of that reason, I don't think Laurie's going to keep letting me help with setup days. So I'll probably have a lot of spare time. I don't know if it'd go as far as I'm not concerned, maybe. You had a Star Trek game, right? Or you started playing a Star Trek game?
Yeah, we had our first session of Star Trek Adventures, which is the big Modifius Star Trek RPG. It's funny how it uses two different stat pools that you then add together to get your target. And there's lots of stuff the game does not go out of its way to explain in this tutorial scenario we did. But it's fun. I don't know how much of that is it's fun because we're doing Star Trek OCs, and how much is fun because the game is good. But
Yeah, I mean that's such an inherent part. I feel it's. I wouldn't even criticize game design for relying on the fact that you'll have fun making Star Trek OCs because that's the main reason you would buy the game before or after.
We want to do Star Trek stuff rather than it's got interesting ship combat.
Yeah, I don't think anyone who is... I mean, it's such a genuine question. Do you think anyone who is not a fan of original properties buys licensed games, regardless of the quality?
I mean...
I can't
imagine it. Except for, a superhero thing, and you could, cut the numbers off enough to, it's generic superhero system.
And I could see maybe a world, if the superhero specifically, where someone who is exclusively, say... a DC fan thinks the licensed game, the Marvel superhero RPG is better than the DC one is. I'm just gonna make all my I could see that, but that feels like a real edge case. I'm not sure if it's ever happened, but I believe it could be plausible.
Or using an Indiana Jones system for generic pulp adventure or something like that. But
there I'm if you're someone who is interested in playing a generic pulp adventure RPG, how are you someone who's never seen an Indiana Jones film?
Yeah, well, true, but...
This is the problem.
I don't want to go looting tombs and whatever. I want to be beating up, I'm going to say Nazis. No,
oh, sure, I can buy that someone
gangsters.
plays a licensed game and, ends up playing it more as, a side game about a similar character, which is sometimes how, I guess, licensed games pitch themselves. But I can't imagine even being interested in that if you're not a fan of an original property. Which I'm like, I think it would be an absurdly high bar to try and beat, to be a game that is interesting enough just on itself to appeal to fans outside of saying, unless I guess there's an element of like, and maybe unless you're like appealing to like game design nerds or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. If anyone has played extensively a licensed RPG of a property they have no otherwise familiarity with me, please reach out.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else could you like run with this. I had an idea in my head, it's totally gone, so that's such a good idea. Anyway, yeah. That's my RPG catch up of the week.
So you said you did one session, right?
Yeah, we did one session. We did the Kobayashi Maru, which is like the traditional like final test at the academy in new Star Treks. As sort of like a prologue for our characters, so we could like learn the system. And yeah, it was good. It was a lot of figuring out how the system works, but I mean that's any first session of like it's pretty rules heavy for like what could be like an entry level. Oh, I just want to play Star Trek. I don't care about like anything else. But you can easily enough just like narrate what you're doing, and then someone tells you what to roll. So it's not so finicky as like a more moves based system like Powered by the Apocalypse might be.
Yeah. No, I get you. Has anyone done a PBTA or Belonging Outside Belonging Trek style stuff? Oh, actually, no. Before I ask that question, because I think that will take us on another tangent. I mean, I'm not particularly like a Star Trek person. I've seen some of the Abrams films. I've seen stray episodes here and there. But I know many nerds. You know, I'm the token
get a lot
cool
of it
friend.
By osmosis.
And so as a token cool friend, I have been told like about the Kobayashi Maru. And isn't the thing of that like, oh, it ends in failure?
Yeah, it's a no-win scenario, and it's like, oh, it's about testing how your ship captain or your crew deals with.
And like thematically doing that as the tutorial, or like immediately in a tutorial doing like, oh, here's the thing from the thing, you know, that seems fun. But the weird thing about a no-win situation is I feel like in an RPG, you're really avoiding ever putting players into those situations. So I'm not sure how good it is as a tutorial of like what the game's actually going to be like.
I mean, in our case, it gets you to do lots of like sort of abstract thinking, and it's like you're sort of doing a metagame layer of my characters don't know it's a no-win scenario.
Yeah, I'm just like it's interesting. Like the final state it would get to is one that like ideally you'd be avoiding in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the way we ended up playing it, we started a war with the Romulans and lost the ship we were trying to rescue. So it was the ultimate double bad ending, but
yeah,
I mean, it's just sort of like it teaches you how to do politicking and
no. It would also probably for a Star Trek game be disappointing if they had a tutorial section and it didn't involve that plot point. It's just then I guess an interesting contrast.
Yeah.
Or an interesting point of tension between like a fictional event in a narrative versus like the role of a tutorial and how they're kind of rubbing against each other in spite of the fact it's the obvious thing you kind of have to do. Do you have an answer to my BOB PPTA question? Because
the only one
you've seen more Star Trek person
is Station, which is a BOB about running a like space station, which is clearly inspired by Deep Space Nine. Can't remember who wrote it, but it's good.
Do you mean Orbital by Marisol Press?
That's the one.
Yeah, that has a bit of the Deep Space Nine. I also feel like I can't remember the timing because it feels like it has like some Citizen Sleeper, another kind of vibes. But yeah, that's very good. That one there, obviously, like I can see how doing something in a space station setting works for Belonging Outside Belonging quite well, whereas maybe that is more, I don't know. I was going to say, is it more complex if you're on a spaceship? In my mind, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, no. But I just don't know of anyone who's done it.
I mean, I could see a Star Trek, say, BOB, where your different playbooks are your different, like, bridge positions. So you've got the captain, you've got the engineer, whatever, security. And then your setting elements could be like, whatever alien planet or society we're interacting with today, maybe you'd have like a list of like tournament arc style episodes, or like a roll table for this time we are interacting with
I think
warfare
probably
aliens. Yeah.
the way to do it would be like a belonging outside belonging that is very specifically like after Wanderhome. In lots of like you've also got the thematic thing there of, I guess, like humanity is as a whole the people who've kind of given up war. If you're doing more of the very like optimistic Star Trek kind of vein, or at least where it's like maybe you're playing a world where like those characters breaking it has more serious consequences for them than it kind of ever does in actual Trek or whatever. But like also there I'm thinking about the way you can have like free natures that form part of a location. You could easily do that for a planet.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, like that's what immediately came to mind when I was thinking, like, yeah, you'd be traveling planets. Oh, you'd use the at the very least, I think you'd use how Wanderhome's natures, like Wanderhome's interpretations of setting elements versus the more original Dream Askew, Dream Apart, or even other different things, like say how Galactic 2E, or does it like that would feel a very different focus. I feel the approach I've mentioned makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm looking forward to seeing that on my desk and on my Kickstarter homepage in the next year.
Like I said, I don't care for Star Trek. Why would I write this game?
I'm not saying to you. I'm saying, dear listener, I want to see
that. Oh, okay. Do we consider Game Soup ideas up for grabs by a listener?
I think they're up for grabs if you give us like 10% of the profits. Yeah.
See, I think that would just be idea couching, but I don't know.
If you listen to this podcast and then steal one of our ideas, if you think of it independently, fine. But
I think ideas are cheap, so I don't think you get money for them. But
that's why we always advertise the ideas, so that they're not cheap.
Ideas for mechanics are still ideas, and as cheap as regular ideas. Sorry, not sorry. I feel like I would at least appreciate an audience member telling me if they're planning to do that, just in case I've also been planning to roll out an idea. I usually feel like I make it very clear if I'm interested in an idea or not, though. Like I'm saying here. There'd be no point in me writing a game that is doing a property
you have
I have just a glancing knowledge of.
Yeah, and I've got enough on my plate already. But I can if I stick down this Star Trek hyperfixation, I could certainly see myself doing something in that space. Yeah, it's called Wonder Trek Home Trek Star. Kayla, you had an idea about another David Lynch movie. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, I think, because it was before or whatever, I went to see Inland Empire at the BFI South Bank with Joe, and I really loved the film Inland Empire. Do you know anything about it?
No, I mean, in our pre-show, I thought you were talking about the Disco Elysium thing, so...
Yeah, which, like, the Disco Elysium thing, I have to assume is named after the film Inland Empire, because otherwise the phrase is not actually, like, meaningful particularly else. It's an area of California, which is kind of just like an unremarkable area. But the phonetics of it, like not the phonetics, the semantics of inland and empire are interesting. And so I assume in the game Disco Elysium, that's a Lynch reference. The film...
I mean, Inland Empire in the game, I don't know if you played it, is like the inner world of the main character and their imagined sort of delusions, but also sort of like shadows on the wall of reality.
Is like Inland Empire specifically, or all of the forts?
Inland Empire specifically is like, yeah, you can get glimpses of the truth through this, but some of it might just be nonsense.
I could see that, yeah, like as a Lynch illusion. So Inland Empire, the film, it's David Lynch's last feature film. It's, I believe, over 3 hours long, or nearly 3 hours. I think it's so interesting to watch with the understanding of the fact it's the last film, because I feel like now that David Lynch has passed, it's easy to I feel like it's such a shame that he wasn't allowed to make more films by people not funding him. But looking at this and then looking at like his list of unrealized projects, I'm like, oh yeah, I think you were plausibly over the feature film. Like I know he's referred to Twin Peaks: The Return, or some people have as like a 17-hour movie, but I personally don't think it is. I think this is really him pushing the edges of a feature film. But its sort of central plot before it begins to go very weird, and I'll avoid spoilers here, concerns like Laura Dern's character, whose name I've forgotten because she has 3 different names or 2 different names.
Amazing.
Is an actress who has been cast in a film that is about an affair. And then very early on in the shooting, she's told by the director, played by Jeremy Irons, that they found out that this film is actually a remake of a film that was never finished, which was unfinished because the film sort of started to feel too real to people, and it ended in like a murder of the real life actors originally. Right. People say this film is haunted, and then more stuff happens. There's also other layers. There's like people, seeming to allude to the future. There's like layers of story, but like through the course of her starring in this film, it starts to sort of come to life, and then we go into full like Lynchian mode. I, in a weird way, though, feel it's almost like at a glance more comprehensible than Mulholland Drive. But I think I'm a fringe opinion on that, seemingly, from how I see people talk about both these films. Have you seen any Lynch? You've seen Twin Peaks a bit.
The first 2.5 episodes of Twin Peaks. Then I started watching it drunk and could not follow it.
Yeah, no, I can see how that would be. And you've never seen any of the films?
Hang on, let me have a look at his films, but I could not tell you any of them.
You've not seen Eraserhead?
Nope.
Blue Velvet?
Nope. None of these. Nope, sorry.
What an exciting segment. But basically, I had this idea of just going through that, like, central thing of, like, a film that is potentially haunted, and the lines, and while shooting, the lines between reality start to break down. I sort of like maybe some like different ways you could do this. Like, I feel it's plausibly scene based, but there's the fact that like a shooting order is not narrative order. So you would be playing these events out of order. I also think maybe there'd be something about like your character, the character your character is playing would also have their own character sheet and gradually start to maybe like override elements of theirs.
The overlap, yeah.
There'd be like flips between.
It's reminding me of the bit in BoJack Horseman where he's kind of losing his mind as Filbert, and he's like, "Oh, I am a detective killing my wife or whatever."
Yeah, it would definitely be that, and it would almost, you could have this sort of pseudo thing of like, is this film? I feel you'd go with the same thing of a haunted film. I think if you wanted to be really cute with this, you'd find a movie that is now in the public domain that plausibly is lost. Like, if it's a lost movie, that's even better.
Uh-huh.
But as long as it did exist, you could do like a lot of really fun stuff with that. My idea for what it would be called is you'd call it Shot on Film.
Yeah. I kind of like it. I can see that as a Kayla Dice production.
It once again feels similar to when I pitched that Stanford La Hope idea, where it's like, I feel like I'm pitching something that maybe is more interesting not as a game.
Well, I mean, it kind of works in a lyrical space, but I like it.
There's a sort of game-shaped artifact here. Maybe it would be very playable. It would probably depend sort of what kind of effort I put into it.
Yeah, but it's also giving sort of House of Leaves the sort of the fun is in reading it rather than playing it or whatever.
Yeah. Have you read You Will Die in This Place?
No.
I'd give that a read. So similar, I could see similar thing in terms of like game. That also does seem to be a playable game, but just like, how the book would be presented, I don't know, it could be its own interesting challenge.
Yeah.
Do you have anything coming up before we boot this one home?
Nothing I can think of. Been getting into Pokemon. Send me off team ideas, guys. I like Noivern. I'm a bit loopy and all over the place. Thank you for listening to Game Soup.
Bye.